Oh, that's
Hello,
better.
strangers. I'm Andy.
Morning, everyone. Sorry, are we recording now?
That's what the countdown generally means.
Yeah, but I didn't see it because I was Googling something else. But hang on, I need to just... How can I adjust the volume in my headphones?
With your volume adjustment.
Which is where?
Okay, your loudspeaker, bottom right of the
Got it.
screen.
Got it. Now, now say something.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah, that's much better. Very good. All right,
Okay.
sorted. Yep. Go.
Well, I'm sorry you had to listen to that, but at least you didn't have the 20 minutes beforehand while we were setting up Mark's laptop.
Look, we can't all be bloody tech gurus like you. Not.
So, what a week that was. What's happened in your life?
What's happening? Obviously, my life's not so exciting, but we have this election. We finally have an election.
Oh, is there a date now?
Yeah, July the 4th.
What, for the British election?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Rishi Sunak. You missed that, did you?
Yeah.
You know, Rishi Sunak made a... I didn't actually see it, but everybody says that he decided to make the announcement on the steps of Downing Street. Quite straightforward, but unfortunately it was absolutely chucking it down with rain and no one offered him an umbrella.
Well,
So he looked like some sort of drowned ferret giving this announcement that July the 4th. Anyway, so it's election.
That's a sign from God, isn't it?
I hope so.
The shape
yes.
of things to come.
Yeah. I mean, I've always, when I was living in England, I always voted Conservative. And I think that no one should vote Conservative this time, not because they're against the Conservative Party per se, but because they're against this bloody rabble of charlatans and liars and cheats that inhabit the Conservative Party at the moment.
And the thieving bastards.
Yeah, literally. But anyway, we'll see. So July the 4th, it's going to be quite interesting. 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Ironically, Independence Day for the US.
Exactly. But outside of that, no. What have I been doing? Actually, amazingly, which is quite unusual for me. I don't have a project on at the moment, which is very unusual for me. Yeah. I've actually been able to do a bit of work in the garden. I actually went to a plant shop and bought flowers to plant, which is just unheard of for me.
You're definitely getting old.
No, clearly. And in fact, you're right, because I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. I've been watering them every morning and every evening. So that was good. And then what else have I been doing? We had the... I don't know what, you don't have them in England, I suppose, or maybe you don't have them anywhere else, but we had the village work day. So
when everyone goes around tidying up.
Yeah, exactly. So we were doing a bit of carpentry work. It's quite good. We've got a nice little community here. There's only 70 households, but we do it two Saturday mornings, and I reckon more than half of the households are represented, which is quite good, I think. It's very nice.
So 70 households, is that all staff?
Oh, I know what else I did. I don't know if anybody outside of England would know what this is, but I did order 4 bottles of Pimm's from the system, from the off license.
Oh, well, of course you did, because it's almost strawberry season.
I can't eat strawberries anymore, but what we normally do, again back to the village, is we have a pizza and Pimm's evening at the harbour.
Oh, dear God. I mean...
It's all pretty sophisticated up here, I can tell you. We literally order takeaway pizzas and have a couple bottles of Pimm's between us.
Well, I had a rather interesting week. On Monday, I took my car in to be repaired.
Repaired? Why?
Well, it had an orange engine light.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Since I drove down to Mora.
They blamed you with the wrong fuel.
Yeah, no, it It was a dysfunctional O2 sensor in the exhaust system, so that's been replaced.
Right.
And they fixed the trunk, the lock on the boot.
Yes.
So that's in working order. But I've still got to sort out the scratch that the landlord made on the paintwork.
I didn't know that. She got annoyed with you and keyed your car.
It was he was carrying some kind of seats from his camper van into the garage, and he wiped the seat. We dragged the seat across the back of my car.
No.
Yeah. And it's too deep. So it's an insurance job.
It's a paint job, is it?
And he's going to have to cover the excess. But that's okay.
1,500 kroner. Oh,
I don't know. Maybe more.
I think it might be more.
Yeah,
I think it might be 7,500.
No, you can't have an excess of 7.5K. That's ridiculous. What's the point of insurance?
Well, you know that when I hired that car in England.
Yeah, but that's a hire car. That's separate, different rules apply. I've never paid more than 1,500 excess or 1,800 for a windshield.
Oh. Anyway,
then on Tuesday, I had to go to the dentist and had one of my molars ripped out.
Molars, that's the back tooth. That's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old problem. It was filled with mercury when I was about 6.
All right, so it's lasted quite long.
Well, no, because over the years it's needed reworking, so it's been burrowed out and filled a couple more times. And I felt it going about a year ago. I could feel like a jaggedy bit where it should be smooth, and then gradually the filling's broken away, and then it was just a big hole. And it didn't cause me any problems until a few weeks ago. Then I started getting the odd ache. So eventually it started constantly aching. So last weekend was a nightmare. It didn't hurt so much as keep you awake. It was always there. So I got an emergency appointment and went to the dentist, and he said, we've got 2 options. We can either go for a root canal. I went, nope. He said, or we can rip it out. And I said, yeah, let's get it out. So that was ripped out on Tuesday morning.
I still remember the name of my dentist, the butcher.
This one didn't come easy. There was a lot of blood, and especially as I'm on blood thinning medication. But then on Friday, had a very pleasant evening in town. We went out for a meal, about 8 of us, I think, from work.
I was going to say, have you been out on any dates with your partners?
Yes, we've been out, and it was very nice. And Robin, he's purchased himself a Tesla.
That's one of your colleagues, obviously. I don't think you've mentioned Robin before. He's bought a Tesla. Yeah,
second-hand, clearly.
How second-hand?
5 years.
So just at the end of the battery life?
The battery's got another
10 years.
At least 10 years. It's only done 5,000 mil.
50,000 kilometres.
Yeah, it's not a great deal.
And what's he bought? What model is it? Is it dual motor? Is it super performance?
Oh, come on. How would I know? It's a Model 3.
There was no point in mentioning it to me if you don't know the details.
It's a Model 3 facelift.
All right. Ask Robin. He might be listening next week. No, you're right. Ask him if it's a dual motor, because then it's like 3.5 seconds to 60 or something.
It's got some kick, I tell you, because he's got a new car. I didn't have to drive on Friday. He was happy to come and get me and taxi me home. I've got about a week that I can use him as a taxi, because he'll get in the car at any opportunity.
Well, good on him.
Until the excitement wears off.
Well done that he's supporting Elon in his bid to secure a $55 billion bonus payment. Yeah. Though, in fact, of course, he's not, because he bought it second-hand.
Yeah, but I mean, if he wants to use all the facilities available, he has to subscribe, doesn't he? There's a monthly subscription.
I think I don't know how it works, but I do know there's been a bit of a media something or other because of the cost are escalating of Tesla charging.
Yeah. Well, that was always going to happen. I said this as soon as electric cars were mooted. I said, that's great until enough people have got them. And then you watch the price of electricity go up.
Oh, or recharging. Though, funny enough, I think I've still got a friend. I've got a friend who still has the free charging. When you bought Teslas originally, it included charging as long as you own the car.
All right.
And I've still got a friend who I think enjoys that benefit.
How long does that last then? Because well, why doesn't everyone have it?
No, because needless to say, they stopped it. So it was an initial promotion to get people to buy Teslas. Lots of people did. And nowadays, obviously, you don't get free charging on a Tesla.
Well, yeah, it was very good anyway. I mean, he picked me up, and as we were driving down our very quiet road, he said, watch this. And he put his foot down. And I literally got thrown back in the seat.
Yeah.
The pickup was amazing.
They are very fast. And I wonder if... Oh, I don't know. I still like the sensation of knowing there's that mechanical internal combustion engine noise and such like when you are accelerating. And I think that adds quite a bit, even though obviously petrol cars are generally much slower these days than electric ones. Anyway. Oh, well, that was good. And where did you eat?
Pinchos.
Pinchos is Spanish little sandwiches, baguette with bits of ham on top.
No, they do. Basically, I had fish and chips, spare ribs, chicken bits,
nuggets,
and chicken something else. You can basically, they do hamburgers as well, but it's all mini. It's like tapas. Everything is like tiny size. So you order like 4 or 5 courses, and it just basically makes up one course. It's very tasty.
You feel like a king in the world of pinchos, do you?
What do you mean? Well, because of the size of the food. I feel like a king when I'm out with Robin anyway, because he's a sort of miniature. I hope he doesn't listen to this. He's 2 inches. He's 2 inches shy of being a dwarf.
Who was the Goliath? Was he the giant?
Yes,
David and Goliath. Yeah, Goliath. So you feel like a Goliath when you're eating pinchos.
Yeah, it is very, but it is very tasty.
And what does food cost up in Treleftio? Is it same as everywhere? 500 for a modest meal and a beer?
Yeah, I mean, my bill was 477, but that did include 2 beers.
All right. Oh.
And the beers were 95 each, So
has everybody in the town jumped onto the bandwagon that there's not enough of anything, so the prices have all gone up? Even to eat a pizza is suddenly 120 krona.
Yeah, they are quite expensive here. Oh, have you set Siri off?
Yes. Why? How does that work? You're supposed to say, "Hey," and then the name that shall not be mentioned.
You only now. You should only be. You should only have to say actually the name. You don't have to say "Hey" anymore. Try it.
No, it's annoying.
But you couldn't wait to get your hands on a.
What do you mean? It was a present. I mean, I do use it. I wear it every day now. It's the first time in donkey's years that I've actually stopped wearing my old watch and wearing this thing, because I like seeing the messages and things. Not that I get many, of course, but I do like seeing them. So what else has happened in our world? We've got the election. We've had a very brief summary of what we've been up to this week. The pollen is terrible. Really terrible.
I've never suffered.
You suffer from hay fever, don't you?
No, not at all.
Oh, you don't? I don't either, but the cars are absolutely covered in this yellow, sticky film of pollen.
Oh, no, we don't have any of that problem here.
Pollen? Of course you do. You've got birch trees in Treleftio.
No, but the yellow pollen doesn't... It's not happening.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What about mosquitoes?
I mean, Huelefte is supposed to be mosquito central, but because we're quite close to the sea here, we have quite a lot of breeze, so not so much of a problem here.
So the mosquitoes just grow bigger wings and stronger wing
No, they
muscles to
move
cope
further
with.
inland.
All right. And you don't have the absolute worst. What's the English word for knot? Is it gnat?
Yeah,
Gnats. Do you have
yeah,
those?
we do. I haven't seen any yet.
Well, you don't. You just feel them in your eyeballs.
But again, I mean, we're so close to the sea that anything smaller than a magpie gets blown away here.
So how close to the sea are you? Can you see the sea?
No, but we built the factory here for a reason because of marine delivery, so we could get cargo ships in with all our equipments and materials. Huh?
And do you use ships to take your batteries places?
I guess so.
You should get on top of all these sort of basic facts, Andy.
Why?
You can't live in a vacuum, your own little world.
Do you know, I'm not interested in how every aspect of this company operates.
You should be.
I'm interested in payday, fika,
Fika.
and also team building, because apparently we're all going go-karting this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I come in your stead? Because you're obviously shite. I'm pretty good at go-karting.
Yeah, you can come. It's been half-assed arrangement, actually. Normally when we do team building, there's food involved and beer.
Yes.
And this time, and it's me who's been pushing for this team building because it's been a while. And the last couple of tooling meetings that we've had, I've said, look, I'm going to bring up the team building again because we've now got people in our department that I don't even know who their fucking name is.
Oh.
We've had sort of so many new people joining, and I don't know a couple of them. I said, this is not the way a team is built, so we need to do a team building. And they finally agreed that we'd do it before semester. And of course, they've picked the day, which is the first day of my semester.
All right, I think you have a bit of a label as a troublemaker.
Oh, definitely. But there's no food involved. And also the day shift are going to have to work Friday morning because the go-karting is booked for 2:30 onwards Friday afternoon. So they're going into our own time. Team building is usually done on a work day during working hours. So I'm going to see if I can take charge of the team building
and
arrange it in future because it's half-assed. There's no food, no after party was mooted. It was just go-karting.
Who is your social officer?
Well, we haven't got one. That's why it's taken so long to get it arranged. I've been at this since Christmas.
Maybe you can take that role and get a bit of extra dosh.
I'll do it for free. They just need to tell me what. No, they just need to tell me what the budget is for the team building per year, per head, and leave it to me, and I will arrange it. And I will arrange it so that people are happy.
Good on you. In fact, funny enough, we were talking about Skellefteå yesterday. How many nationalities? Do you know how many nationalities?
I actually do.
Oh, right,
I think it's 92.
Are there 92 nationalities?
Yes.
How many countries are there in the world?
187.
I was going to say 147.
I don't know, but I think we've got 92. I've heard it said somewhere that we've got 90.
That is a hell of a lot of nationalities.
Yeah, but it might be only one from Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, but still. All right. Anyway, now I don't want to worry you, but on the actually talking about Teslas and on your work front, the Chinese claim to have produced some sort of battery that doubles the mileage and halves the cost.
Yeah, that would be the solid state one. That would be without anodes and cathodes. It would be like one of those little round flat ones that you put into little torches. Instead of the big clunky ones with the plus and the minus.
I wonder if they've taken out technology insurance, if you could do such a thing. so that if there is a major new development in technology that makes everything you're making sort of a bit old hat.
Well, no, what they do is they know we've already got these developments. We've got new battery developments, but we're not going to roll them out because they've spent billions on research and development for the stuff that they're trying to flog now. They've got to recoup. So you'll be buying these cars with these batteries for at least 10 years more.
You're probably right. Yes, just because the new technology exists doesn't mean it's going to be introduced.
No, they'll hold it back as long as possible just to get as maximum profit back.
Yeah. All right, one guess. I'm not doing stuffing today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking Sunday lunch.
We're doing roast lamb.
No. You've got 3 guesses because this is so exciting listening for the listeners. Roast lamb, not.
Beef.
Not.
Then it's got to be pork.
No, I told you, I gave you a clue. I said there was no stuffing involved, which means there's no roast involved, maybe.
Oh, no, that's not really exactly a clue, is it?
Well, it's
so
a bit
you're
of a
having
clue.
fucking eggs on toast.
I'll tell you what we're having, which is a bit unusual for me on a Sunday lunch. Do you know what I think it's called a poke bowl?
Well, we had one at the Perv Club.
I bet you did. Let me actually access Google. A poke bowl. So it's going to be salmon. A salmon poke bowl. Poke bowl. It's quite nice. It's you sort of do a marinade. Yeah, it is called a poke bowl. So it's going to be avocado, salmon, and mango salsa on a bed of rice.
How can you sit there and try and tell people you ain't that posh?
What's it got to do with posh? It's got to do with being a bit Asian. I don't know if it is Asian. I think it's American.
No one in the world who is less than a multi-millionaire would eat a poke bowl. Clearly.
Don't be ridiculous. It's completely
that's
normal.
Rich man's food.
You can get it in Skellefteå. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Not a chance. We're all paupers here.
It's
we get go-karting with no food.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Anyway, so I thought I'd mention that because you're always ribbing me about doing my stuffing.
Anyway, let's get on to business because we've spoken nonsense for way too long. Now,
and you think that's going to change, do you?
No, this is proper nonsense. I've been avoiding this, and you've asked for this before, and I've said no because it's patently ridiculous.
Aliens through history that have brought technology down and then it's been forgotten.
No, because that's not ridiculous. This is the Loch Ness monster.
We've done it before.
We haven't. I've refused.
Don't be ridiculous.
We've never done Nessie. I've fought you at every turn. You've asked for it. I've never done it.
And why have you relented now, may I ask? You think you've changed your mind and you think it's true?
No, I think it's only fair that my bias shouldn't affect the podcast.
Other than the fact you're the producer of the podcast, I think it might have some effect.
Just because I patently do not believe in the Loch Ness monster, I might be wrong. I mean, I know it's unlikely. It's never happened before. But there is a possibility that I am wrong and the Loch Ness monster does exist. So we're gonna stay very factual, though.
What do you mean? How can you stay factual? It's the end of the production if you're staying factual relating to... well, you can tell us where Loch Ness is because we know that exists.
It's in Bonnie, Scotland. And this is half the problem. I mean, when the Scottish tell you that they've got the Loch Ness monster living in one of their lochs, you have to wonder because the Scottish also have the unicorn as their national animal.
Is that right? There's a unicorn on the flag of Scotland.
I'm not saying it's on the flag, but it is the national animal of Scotland, the unicorn, which also patently doesn't exist.
Well, it does in some people's minds. Isn't that what everybody's searching for these days? A unicorn.
Hmm.
Now, that's an amazing coincidence. Not that it's very interesting for everybody, but I watched Highlander, the film, last night.
What, the original?
Yeah, with
Sean Connery.
Yeah, Sean Connery. And I'll tell you what, the special effects are so shite. And bearing in mind all the sword fighting that's going on, you thought they would have had some proper sword fighting coaching. It was just toilet.
Did you see the size of the swords?
I mean, it was a mildly amusing film, only to the extent it looks so aged. I think it was 1986 or 96. I can't remember. 86 it has to have been.
Also, you're watching in 4K now, so you can clearly see the scenery wobbling and stuff.
I don't think my TV is 4K.
It must be. If it's less than 10 years old, it will be. Mind you, your computer's 50 years old.
No, I think my TV is older than 10 years.
No wonder you're rich. You never spend any fucking money.
I think my TV is 32. Is a 32-inch.
What? Is it a Sony Fatback? Have you got one of those 58 kilo Fatback 32-inch TVs?
No. Don't be ridiculous. It's a proper flat screen TV. But I think it is probably about 12 years old. It's very good. But I tell you what I do have. I've got some pretty kick-ass speakers to listen to the TV through. On the side, I've got on them on audio stands. It's pretty cool, I have to say. Anyway. Right, back to Loch Ness. Who thought up this crazy idea? How long has it been in the papers, Loch Ness Monster?
Well, I mean, Loch Ness Monster, known as Nessie, is a mythical creature in Scottish folklore that is said to inhabit Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands.
Yes, what you're going to have to do is you're going to, rather than just reading someone else's research, when I say, when was it first thought up?
Well, no, it's not when it was first thought up, because the first sighting, you would be amazed, was in the 13th century.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bit of a giveaway.
But
okay,
there is
all
a
right.
timeline that I would like to follow. But first, I need to lay the groundwork for those who've never heard of the Loch Ness Monster.
All right. What proportion of our listenership do you think have never heard of the Loch Ness Monster?
0.
I think, our
Everyone
Aussie listeners, US
heard.
listeners, European listeners, they must have all heard of the Loch Ness Monster.
Anyway, it's often described as a large, long-necked creature with one or more humps protruding from the water. And popular interest and belief of the creature has varied since it was brought to worldwide attention, first of all, in 1933.
You just said 1300s.
Yes, that was the first sighting, but worldwide attention was brought in 1933 when evidence of its existence became more than anecdotal, with a number of fairly well disputed photographs and sonar readings. Now, I will put up the original photograph from 1934 on the screen now.
And is that the rubber ring one?
Yes.
Where it's just a series of rubber rings?
No, this is where you actually see, well, you'll see it on the screen. You'll have to look like everybody else.
What do you mean?
So
All right,
it's not going to go on the screen now, obviously. But
I realise that. That's why I'm now using my
production.
No, but I'm using my special computer skills to look up pictures of Loch Ness Monster.
Well,
so you just carry on.
In August 1933, the Courier published an account of George Spicer's alleged sighting, and public interest suddenly skyrocketed, with countless letters being sent in detailing lots of different sightings of the monster, describing it as a monster fish, a sea serpent, or even a dragon, with the final name ultimately settling on the Loch Ness Monster. And since the 1940s, the creature has been affectionately called Nessie.
Very affectionately.
So the earliest reported sighting of the monster in the vicinity of Loch Ness appears in The Life of Saint Columba, which was written in the 7th century AD. According to Adamant, writing about a century after this happened.
Adamant wasn't around in the 7th century.
Prince Charming. The writer was called Adoman.
Adam Ann.
Adoman.
Adoman.
He was writing about a century after the events happened, and it was the Irish monk, St. Columba. He was staying in the land of the Picts, or Scotland, with his companions when he encountered local residents burying a man by what was then called the River Ness. They explained that the man had been swimming in the river when he was attacked by a water beast, a water beast attacked.
That's quite good for you, actually, Andy. I could almost imagine I'm in Glasgow, was that?
That mauled him. He suffered a proper mauling, baby. The beast mauled.
Right. Enough now. You've made your point. But hang on a second. A Loch Ness monster, if it gives a bloke a mauling, he's gonna disappear.
No.
Well, a monster is a massive, great big thing. It's not 10 feet long. It's 100 feet long.
He hasn't got the fingers. It might give it. Oh, hang on a second. My alarm's going off. Alexa, stop. That means it's time to do my release.
Well, I don't think we need to see you doing your release.
Well, because we started recording early, I have to release this week's episode. So give me a second.
Oh, release this week's episode. I thought you were talking about some other type of release.
I'm just doing that now.
You can't do that on your mobile phone, surely.
Of course I can.
I thought there were lots of levers and knobs to pull.
No, I can do that and then go there and do that. And then I have to go there. And...
Oh, excuse me. Oh, dear.
Share that. And press that. And we should be good. Okay, yeah, so while he was swimming, he was attacked by the water beast that mauled him and dragged him underwater despite their attempts to rescue him by boat. Columbia sent a follower, Luigni Mokumin.
I think that's Luigi.
No, it could have been an Italian.
Yeah, Luigi.
No, but his name is not Luigi. It's Luigne. Luigne. It's Luigne. Luigne Moku Min. It could be Italian. It could be Chinese.
Doesn't sound Italian to me.
It could be Papua New Guinea. Maybe it's that listener we have in Papua New Guinea.
Could be.
To swim across the river. Anyway, the beast approached him, but Columbia made the sign of the cross and said, "Go no further. Do not touch the man. Go back at once."
This must be the most intellectually gifted Loch Ness monster I've heard about. He actually speaks English.
Well, he understood because the creature stopped, as if it had been pulled back with ropes, and it fled. And Columbia's men and the Picts, or the Scots, gave thanks for what they perceived to be a miracle.
It's a propaganda. They weren't early Christians.
This is like 700 AD.
Exactly. So they needed
a
bit.
The propaganda machine hadn't even started its engine at that
Of course
point.
It had. What do you think? When did the Dark Ages start? That was about 1000 AD. So
that was medieval times.
1000 to 1300 AD was the Dark Ages.
Anyway, believers in this story, because there are
It's a propaganda.
Believers. I'm sorry, but I've just given you irrefutable evidence. I'm supposed
so you got
to be
an English-speaking sea-dwelling monster who's afraid of God.
It was more Gaelic, probably. But I'm supposed to be the skeptic in this episode.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, believers in the monster point to this story set in the River Ness rather than the loch itself, because apparently the loch is fed by a river. as evidence no less, for the creature's existence as early as the 6th century.
Wow.
Now, skeptics like me would question the narrative's reliability, noting that water beast stories were pretty common in medieval stories and happenings, and this tale probably recycles a common motif attached to a local landmark. According
Yep.
to skeptics, while the story may be independent of the modern Loch Ness Monster legend and only became attached to it by believers seeking to bolster their claims, Ronald Binns, whoever he is, considers that this is the most serious of various alleged early sightings of the monster.
Do you think they had tourists in those days?
I think tourists have been around for as long as legs.
No, I was thinking, if you get these sort of stories going up, do you think people then flock to the River Ness to see if they could see the monster? And
Well, of course,
they have
because
to
there was-
stay somewhere and drink a bit of beer somewhere. Do you think, honestly, there was a tourist industry in 700?
I would imagine there was, because there was no Netflix.
I
You had
wonder
to
how
find
big.
something to do. If you didn't have to work 8 days a week just to survive, if you had free time and the wherewithal, of course you went travelling.
You
But
say
what else
that.
was there to do?
I think people's worlds were pretty damn small in those days. I don't think they went very far. I mean, for a start, they were working 6-7 days a week.
That's what I said. If you were a person of means and you didn't have the commitments, why would you stay in one place?
So if you
Because
were a landowner,
there was
or a
nothing
baron,
to do.
have children. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, I don't think tourist industry existed until a lot later, when people started going to the beach, to the coast in Brighton.
Possibly.
Anyway, so this fellow Columbia, or whatever his name is, he's the first written report of the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, he's the first written recorded report. But most other claims of sightings before 1933 are at best dubious, and they don't prove a monster tradition really before that date.
So who took this photograph of the 1936 episode?
It was George Spicer, I think.
Because I reckon that the tourist industry definitely existed in 1936.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
So they were. It was fair enough. It's an innocent mistake to think that there's a monster in your loch.
Well, I mean, it was this that sort of separated the Loch Ness Monster from the usual kelpies or water horses and the modern sort of media augmented creation of the Loch Ness Monster.
Sorry, what is it? What did you say? What, a kelpie? What on earth is that?
A kelpie. That was the mermaid type thing, kelpies.
We did one on that, didn't we?
We did.
God, dear, we've done so many. Are there any subjects we've never covered before, other than the Loch Ness Monster?
We've actually covered quite a lot of stuff now.
It's remarkable.
But mostly skimmed over, I'd have to say.
Yes, that's what I would describe our podcast as: lightweight, shallow.
Anyway, if we go back to October 1871...
Why would we want to do that?
Or 1872, if you like. There was a D. Mackenzie of Balnain reportedly saw an object resembling a log or an upturned boat wriggling and churning in the water.
Have you done a Scottish accent before? Because you do it quite well. It's normally Cornish pirate, but now you've gone all Scottish on me. Wriggling
and churning up the water. Moving slowly at first before disappearing at a very fast speed. Now, this account wasn't published until 1934, when Mackenzie sent his story in a letter to Rupert Gould shortly after popular interest in the monster increased.
Who
So he
was
sat on
Rupert
it
Gould?
basically. I would imagine he was some newspaper owner, some mogul. I can't tell you what his job was. And then, I'm going a little bit. There was Alexander MacDonald, by the way, in 1888, and he was a mason. So now you know he was a bricklayer, basically.
What are we talking about? Leather aprons and one trouser leg too short?
No, a mason as in a stoneworker.
Ah, not a Freemason.
No, that's a Freemason, not a mason.
All right. I'm sorry.
So he was from Abrakan, and he cited a large, I'm going to have to do this, a large stubby-legged animal. I'm going Irish now, so I've lost it.
Sorry, this one's got legs.
Yeah, surfacing from the loch and propelling itself within 50 yards or 46 meters.
Where do you get your research from that needs to convert yards to meters?
I'm just telling you what it is.
God.
Of the shore where MacDonald stood. Now, MacDonald reported his sighting to the Loch Ness water bailiff, because they've got one, who was Alex Campbell, because we've got Alex MacDonald, but now we've got Alex Campbell.
Yeah,
now,
but
the Campbells and the MacDonalds are usually fucking feuding, aren't they?
Exactly. They're normally swordsing each other.
And he described the creature as looking like a salamander.
How would he know what a salamander looks like?
It looks like the Loch Ness monster.
No, but a salamander is somewhere from equatorial region.
Yeah, but this is 1930.
No, it's
no,
1872, you
No, it's
idiot.
1888.
No, it wasn't. It was 1871, maybe
No, that
two.
was the last. That was Mackenzie. This is MacDonald.
He wouldn't know what a salamander looks like, so it's a ridiculous comparison for him to make. It underlines the bollocks nature.
You don't know that he wasn't a tourist and he has seen a salamander.
I've got to see what a salamander looks like now.
Anyway, moving back to 1933.
No, I want to go back to what a salamander looks like.
The best known article that first attracted a great deal of attention about a creature was published in the Inverness Courier on the 2nd of May 1933. And it was about a large beast or a whale-like fish. And this article by Alex Campbell, the water bailiff for Loch Ness, who also happens to be a part-time journalist.
All right, look, I don't want to spoil your fun, but have you ever seen a picture of a salamander?
I know what a salamander looks like.
Yeah, but what's the big feature about a salamander?
It's the tail. It's got a big lump on the end of its tail, hasn't it?
No. The biggest feature of a salamander, it's got a bloody great big head on it.
Well, yeah.
And a short neck.
Yes.
So what's that got to do with the Loch Ness Monster, which has a really long neck and a tiny head? You couldn't get more unlike a salamander.
But it had short legs, apparently, the one that he saw.
Well, he could have described it as a sausage dog. I mean,
that wouldn't be much of a monster, would it?
No, but not. It's a salamander.
The size of a sausage dog. And it was a running and a barking.
This is just ridiculous. So we've had two accounts from Scots who were obviously a bit pissed up on the old single malt. I mean, one of them is describing it as something completely contrary to what we understand it looks like.
You're kind of generalising.
Oh, I'm being a bit racist by suggesting they were all high on single malt.
A little bit. I apologise to our Scottish listener.
You're right.
If you've got one.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, I've lost it now.
You've lost your place.
Alex Campbell, who was the water bailiff for Loch Ness and also a part-time journalist, discussed a sighting by Eddie Mackay of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling about in the water in the loch while she and her husband John were diving. Sorry. While she and her husband John were driving.
We dive in 5, no muff too tough.
On the A82 on the 15th of April in 1933. And the word monster was apparently reported for the first time. So it was applied. It used to be the Loch Ness Beastie or the Loch Ness this, but now it's the Loch Ness Monster. Although some reports do claim that the monster thing was coined by editor Evan Barron. But nobody seriously knows. But the Courier in 2017 published excerpts from the original article, and it reads like this, and the language is great, from like nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah, what are we talking now? 1930s? Are we still in the 1890s?
We're talking 1933.
All right, okay, fine. So we're into modern times.
The creature disported itself.
What's disported?
Rolling and plunging for fully a minute. Its body resembling that of a whale.
It's a shame people can't see you.
Cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realised here was no ordinary denizen of the deep, because, apart from its enormous size, the beastie, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer.
Have you ever been a thespian, Andy? You've had a few thespians in your time.
I think I've got one in my left armpit at the moment. Now, Mackay said that she had yelled, "Stop the beast!" when viewing the spectacle in the late 1980s. However, a naturalist interviewed Ada Mackay, and she admitted to knowing that there had been an oral tradition of a beast in the loch before her claimed sighting. Alex Campbell's article also stated that Loch Ness has for generations been credited with being the home of fearsome-looking monsters.
Thing is, I don't think nothing survives for a few hundred years, does it?
Well,
so it's had
actually,
babies.
Yes.
What? No.
Actually, yes. Don't you remember the
tortoise?
Turtle?
200 years old.
The tortoise. How old?
200 years.
And it belonged to...
It's in Mauritius. I've seen it.
No, but do you remember the tortoise that belonged to... We did a podcast a few weeks ago, and you refused to believe that his tortoise actually survived until 2017 in a zoo in India. Clive of India.
We've done a podcast about Clive of India.
Oh my God, it was like a month ago.
Give me a clue. What did Clive of India get up to?
He basically helped the India Trading Company basically take over India.
No, I don't think we've done that. You must have done that one with Richard.
No, Mark. No.
Really?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was to do with. It was the same episode as Napoleon Nelson when you got the two confused.
Well, I remember that one, of course,
Yes.
but I don't remember the mention of it. It was probably just a passing comment.
We were talking about the people who were drug addicts throughout history, and Clive of India was one of them, as was Napoleon.
Ah, right, okay. No, still drawing a blank. Sorry, what's Clive of India got to do with the Loch Ness Monster now? What's the connection?
His tortoise was nearly 400 years old, I think.
No. No.
Yes.
No, the giant turtles on Mauritius, which I've actually petted. Oh, I don't need to use my phone anymore, do I? Oldest living creature. No, what does it have to be? Animal.
Tortoise.
No.
Tortoise.
No, I know what
Yes.
tortoise. No, we'll just go longest living animal. Longest. Sorry. I've got longer. Yeah, carry on.
Well, modern interest in the monster was sparked by a sighting on the 22nd of July 1933 when George Spicer and his wife saw a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car. And they described this creature as having a large body, about 1.2 meters high, 4 feet, and 25 feet or 7.5 meters long, and a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as 10 or 12 feet.
Oh, this is a bit strange, Andy.
Mm.
So, oh, bloody hellfire. So this giant tortoise you spoke of,
Yes.
they're 175 years. This is the longest living animal species. So that, that's roughly what but there's something called a bowhead whale, and they live for 200 years.
Yeah, whales can live quite long.
But here's something even more incredible. There's a shark. It can't be right. A Greenland shark can live for 400 years.
And they eat the whole time.
And a Greenland shark, Greenland's not that far away from Scotland. We could have solved the mystery of the Loch Ness monster.
Except if you were listening to this podcast while we were recording it, you would hear that we've just had a monster crossing the road.
What? What are you talking about? A monster crossing the road? Can you stop?
Can you listen to because you're not very good at multitasking.
No, you're right.
Let myself.
Okay, back on the studio. Carry on. Right. Yep.
I'm talking to myself.
No, you're not. You're talking to all our listeners.
So George Spicer and his wife were driving down the road when they saw a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car.
Ah, we're back to salamander.
And they described this creature as having a large body, about 4 feet high and 25 feet long, with a long, wavy, narrow neck, thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as the width of the road, about 10 to 12 feet. They saw no limbs. It lurched across the road toward the loch, 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. Spicer described it as the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal that I have ever seen in my life, and as having a long neck which moved up and down in the manner of a scenic railway. I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah, what's he talking about? Scenic railway?
It had also an animal in its mouth.
Oh dear.
And had a body that was fairly big with a high back, but if there were any feet, they must have been of the web kind. And as for a tail, I cannot say, as it moved so rapidly, and when we got to the spot that it had probably disappeared into the loch.
It's not really a monster though, is it? 25 feet long.
Well, if it crosses the road in front of you with an animal in its mouth, it's probably a monster.
It sounds like a bit of a giant slug. Maybe it was a walrus or something like that. With
25 feet long.
Well, how long do you think a walrus is?
Not 7 meters.
Probably about 3 or 4.
No.
A walrus is bloody enormous. They weigh about 3 tons.
I'm not. No.
Well, certainly it wasn't a Greenland shark. I'll give you that much. I was surprised at that fact. 400 years. Anyway, so what did they do? Did they try to club this thing to death to bring it in for for scientific exploration?
Well, he was the first one that described the creature as a sort of plesiosaur-like dinosaur. And evidence suggested by researchers at Columbia University in 2013 basically proved his story to be a fake.
What? So it was all made up?
Yeah.
Well, then why did you relate the story if it was all made up?
Because from 1933 to 2017, it wasn't fake. And it was one of the stories that helped promote the whole Loch Ness fantasy. The university and Daniel Loxton suggested that Spicer's sighting was fictionalized and inspired by a long-necked dinosaur that rises out of a lake in King Kong. Film that was extremely popular in theatres in his home city of London during August of that year when he reported the sighting. Loxton and Donald Prothero later cited King Kong as evidently an influence on the Loch Ness monster myth.
What?
Well, on the 4th of August 1933, the Courier published a report of Spicer's sighting, and this sighting triggered a massive amount of public interest and a vast uptick in alleged sightings, leading to the solidification of the actual name Loch Ness Monster and boosting tourism exponentially.
Thank you. I might have actually driven past Loch Ness.
You probably have if you've been up that way, because it's been claimed that the sightings of the monster increased after a road was built along the loch early in 1933, bringing workers and tourists to the formerly isolated area. However, Binns has described this as the myth of the Lonely Loch, as it was far from isolated before then due to the construction of the Caledonian Canal in the 30s. The existing road by the side of the loch was given a serious upgrade. Now, also in 1933, Hugh Gray took a very famous photograph. It was taken near Foyers on the 12th of November, and it was the first photograph which was alleged to depict the monster. It was slightly blurred, and it has been noted that if one looks closely, the head of a dog can be seen. Now, Gray had taken his Labrador for a walk that day. And it is suspected that the photograph depicts his dog fetching a stick from the loch. Others have suggested that the photograph actually depicts an otter or a swan. The original negative was lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, because swans and otters, they look quite similar, don't they? I mean, if you think of an otter and a swan, you can barely tell the difference between the two of them.
If you're using a 1933 Brownie camera, you could probably make most things look like a Loch Ness monster.
It looked a bit like an otter or a swan. Are these people, you talk about everybody
I'm not saying the same person said it could be an otter or a swan. I'm saying other people would see an otter or a swan.
Which is further evidence.
No, people see different things if they're looking at exactly the same thing. People are stupid.
Yeah, but they don't describe things as looking like a telephone box and then the next person comes along and describes it as a tree. I mean, there is a difference.
No, that would happen. That would absolutely happen.
I refer back to my comment about single malt. I think there's just too much of it consumed up there to these people.
So despite the original negative being
swan
lost,
and an otter.
Despite the original negative being lost, in 1963, a chap called Maurice Burton came into possession of 2 lantern slides, which were contact positives from the original negative. And when projected onto a screen, they did reveal an otter rolling on the surface in characteristic fashion. So, yet again, Nessie was proven to be a hoax.
I don't remember recommending the idea of this Loch Ness Monster podcast. What, 2 years ago or something?
You've mentioned it a few times.
No.
Why don't we do the Loch Ness Monster?
I've never said that.
You have.
No.
You don't remember what you said 10 minutes ago. How are
You're-
you gonna remember what you said 2 years ago, for fuck's sake? It's a matter of public record. I could probably track you
Literally.
down.
Literally, it's a matter of public record. How worrying
So,
is that?
1934, Arthur Grant.
You're jumping around a bit. It would be nice if we did this in chronological order rather than just how
We're
you're.
kind of doing it in chronological order.
No, last time we were 2016, wasn't it?
No, that was when they were verifying or contradicting a 1933 photograph.
All right, so we're back to 33. What happened then?
We're in 34.
34 now.
On the 5th of January, a motorcyclist, Arthur Grant, claimed to have nearly hit the creature while approaching the northeastern end of the loch at about 1 a.m.
200 metres from the
just
pub.
after
He had
the
just
pub
left.
shop, by the way,
Exactly.
on a moonlit night.
And what did
Now-
he nearly hit? Was that an otter or a swan-like creature?
Well, according to Grant, it had a small head attached to a long neck. The creature saw him and crossed the road back to the loch. Now, Grant, a veterinarian student, described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. Because
Ooh.
how many plesiosaurs do you get in Scotland? He said he dismounted his bike and followed it to the loch, but he saw only ripples. Now, he produced a sketch of the creature, which I will also put up here.
Excellent.
And it was examined by a zoologist who stated that it was consistent with the appearance and behaviour of an otter. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Grant, it's been suggested that this was a faulty observation due to the poor light conditions and the single malt he'd been imbibing since 11 o'clock in the
I
morning.
told you.
No,
I knew.
it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. I was just preempting you. Paleontologist Darren Ness has suggested that Grant may have seen either an otter or a seal and exaggerated his sighting over time due to the imbibing
Of the single malt.
the single malt which had washed up on the shore of the loch.
He was lucky to get home if he was on his motorbike.
Yeah. Again in 1934, the surgeon's photograph, which is reportedly the first photo of the creature's head and neck, supposedly taken by a chap called Robert Kenneth Wilson, who was a London gynaecologist.
There are plenty of professionals up in that region, aren't there?
Yes.
Veterinarians, gynecologists.
Now, this was published in the Daily Mail. So
I wonder if it ever was a quality publication, the Daily Mail, or has it always been a rag?
Well, I mean,
propaganda
there was
rag.
Also, Wilson refused to have his name associated with the photograph as well, which led it to being known as the surgeon's photograph.
Oh, right.
According to Wilson, he was looking at the loch when he saw the monster, grabbed his camera, and he snapped 4 photos. Now, only 2 of those exposures came out clearly. The first reportedly shows a small head and back, and the second shows a similar head in a diving position. The first photo became really well known, and the second attracted publicity because of its blurriness. Now, for 60 years, the photo was considered evidence of the monster's existence, although skeptics dismissed it as driftwood, an elephant,
Swimming in the loch.
oh, that'll be the Scottish elephant, baby. An otter, or
a swan. A swan. I told you.
Now, the photo scale was controversial because it was always shown cropped, making the creature seem large and the ripples look like waves. While the uncropped shot shows... Are we interrupting your messaging?
No, it's just we're getting quite exciting stuff going on here.
while the uncropped shot shows the other end of the loch and the monster in the centre. Now, the ripples in the photo were found to fit the size and pattern of small ripples rather than large waves photographed up close. So close analysis of the original image fostered further doubt. In 1993, the makers of the Discovery Communications documentary Loch Ness Discovered analysed the uncropped image and found a white object visible in every version of the photo, implying that it was also on the negative. And it was believed to be the cause of the ripples, as if the object was being towed.
Oh, no.
Although the possibility of a blemish on the negative couldn't be ruled out. Now, an analysis of the full photograph indicated that the object was small, probably 2 to 3 feet long. So it looks like your good doctor was a scammer.
You
But
can't
he's a
trust anybody.
professional.
He's a gynecologist. If you can't trust a gynecologist, who can you trust?
He's a man who looks at Fanny all day long.
We didn't have to bring it down to that level, Andy. I know it's difficult for you.
He did. He started it.
So the whole thing's an absolute waste of time, in other words.
Well, since 1994, most people agree that that photo was an elaborate hoax. I say elaborate, not really that elaborate. It's been described as a fake in the Sunday Telegraph article.
Oh, no, not the Sunday Telegraph.
And details of how the photo was taken were published in a 1999 book, Nessie, the Surgeon's Photograph Exposed. I mean, I wrote a whole book about fake photo. Honestly.
Maybe we should write a book, Andy.
Yeah, about...
I don't know, our experiences on podcasting. That would be riveting reading.
Well, you wouldn't remember anything to write down.
That's why I need to write it down, so I do remember. I have a record of it. I could read that book every day.
Yeah,
and
but we'd publish a book, and then a week later, I'd say, how's the book sales going? You'd be going, oh, what book? What are you talking about, book?
Just because I forgot Clive of India, for God's sake. He probably got mentioned for about 10 seconds.
Now... the creature in the surgeon's photograph was said by the Sunday Telegraph, probably a toy submarine.
It just gets worse
Sperling
and worse.
admitted the photograph. Now, there was a chap called Christian Sperling, who was the son-in-law of Marmaduke Wetherell. And Sperling admitted the photograph was a hoax in January 1991. Wetherell had been publicly ridiculed by his employer, the Daily Mail, after he found Nessie footprints that turned out to be a hoax. To get revenge on the Mail, Wetherell perpetrated his hoax with co-conspirators Sperling, who was a sculpture specialist. They're a very suspicious bunch of people. Ian Wetherell, his son, who bought the material for the fake, and Morris Chambers, an insurance agent. The toy submarine was bought from Woolworths, and its head and neck were made from wood putty. After testing it in a local pond, might have been Highgate Pond, it might have been Hampstead Heath Swimming Pond, the group went to Loch Ness, where they took photos near the Altsea Tea House, and when they heard a water bailiff approaching, Duke Wetherell sunk the model with his foot, and it's presumably still somewhere in Loch Ness. Chambers gave the photographic plates to Wilson, a friend of his who enjoyed a good practical joke, and he bought the plates to Ogston's, an Inverness chemist, and he gave them to George Morrison for development. He sold the first photo to the Daily Mail, who then announced that the monster had been photographed.
Here's a question for you. With all this AI malarkey going on now,
Yeah.
you could literally ask to have a photograph of anything, couldn't you?
Yes.
Because I got on my feed the other day something about cycling hedgehogs. I don't know if you've seen that one.
There's so many different
No, but
rubbish things
exactly.
out
So
there.
you say to the AI picture producer, I want a picture of cycling hedgehogs, and the next thing you've got is a picture of cycling hedgehogs.
Yeah.
So from this day onwards, anything like a picture of the Loch Ness monster is literally meaningless.
Yeah, but I mean, at the moment, AI pictures are pretty easy to spot.
How?
They're really obvious. We've got AI notices have been going up at work that have been AI generated, and it's clearly AI generated. It's hard to describe. It's in your face how AI it is. It's unrealistic. They can't do fingers on hands. They
Yeah,
they, they don't get things right. It's hard to narrow down and pin down, but it's obvious.
but it's certainly getting there, because I would think I was telling you the other day, you've probably forgotten in an earlier episode, we were talking about
I'm not that person.
no, we were talking about AI generated letters and job applications. Everybody
Yes,
uses AI now.
I don't.
Well, how can that work?
It
Uh,
doesn't.
well, it
And
does,
people,
because
no,
everybody
it doesn't.
uses it.
Yeah, but they get caught out because people are stupid, and people aren't as stupid as you think. They're actually more stupid.
Never underestimate the stupidity
Never,
of people.
never. I mean, I was reading one HR person was talking about AI candidates, and she said they should at least read. She said she was interviewing one woman who was clearly typing the question she was being asked into an AI and then just basically reading out the answer
What, during the interview?
during the interview. Yeah. And it was nonsense because the AIs aren't good enough. So
It's not what everybody
she
says,
asked,
Andy,
she asked sort of, what would you be bringing
to the
to the
company.
table, as it were, if you got accepted in this
Oh,
position?
baguette and olive oil.
And the answer came back. It was so generic and sort of generalized. It didn't actually answer the question. It just
Mm.
spoke about the benefits of people who bring things to the table. Yeah, it was like, oh, really? Just answer the
Mm.
question.
All right.
People are stupid, though.
Well, hopefully not. Well, yeah, they have to be reasonably stupid to get entertained by listening to the two of us ramble on for an hour and 12 minutes.
Yes, I'd like to get to the end.
Aren't we there yet?
No, God, we're nowhere near it.
We've
I
already
can't make a two-parter out of something I clearly don't believe in.
we've already dismissed it as complete nonsense. So how much more nonsense information can you part?
Well, we haven't gone into the searches.
What searches?
The actual searches for the Loch Ness monster,
What, divers going
the
down?
financed hunting. Maybe we should do a two-parter.
Maybe we can do a two-parter where the next part is in a year's time when I will have completely forgotten.
Well, you'll have forgotten it by next week anyway.
Well, you can test me.
Yes, okay, we will do a two-parter, but I want to give you a couple more things.
All right, go for it.
On the 29th of May 1938, South African tourist George Taylor filmed something in the loch for 3 minutes on 16mm colour film. This is 1938. The film was obtained by popular science writer Maurice Burton, who would not show it to other researchers. A single frame of this film was published in his 1961 book, The Elusive Monster, and his analysis concluded it was a floating object, not an animal.
All right, yeah.
And then we have William Fraser in 1938. On the 15th of August, William Fraser was a chief constable of Inverness-shire, wrote a letter that the monster existed beyond doubt and expressed concern about a hunting party that had arrived with a custom-made harpoon weapon
To shoot them.
Yes, Yes, determined to catch the monster, dead or alive.
How do people's brains work? So they were actually going there willing to kill the Loch Ness monster.
Well, there's only one left. It's not like it's going to get a girlfriend.
No, but that's exactly why you wouldn't want to kill it, for God's sake. There's only one left, and people think, oh, I know, I'd like that on my mantelpiece.
And he believed that his power to protect the monster from the hunters was very doubtful. And this letter was released by the National Archives of Scotland in April 2010. But anyway, that's some of the sightings over the years and some of the hoaxes. But yeah, next week we'll go into some of the searches that were actually financed and carried out. And you'd be amazed at the money that's spent trying to hunt this Loch Ness monster.
Well, obviously, it's still a bit of an industry, but really.
And we'll talk a little bit about the tourist industry side of it too. But that's it for this week. Cause,
we can talk about my memory loss.
Well, yeah, we'll spend the first 15 minutes convincing Mark that we did do Loch Ness Monster last week. So thanks for listening, everyone, except Mark.
What do you mean? I was listening most of the time.
I'll tell you what you should do, actually. Next Saturday, watch this on YouTube.
Yeah, that is a good idea to prompt me. Yeah, but then I'll start asking intelligent questions and pick you up on your inconsistencies, which wouldn't be a good look.
I wouldn't be surprised if you'd say, there's pointless doing this on the Loch Ness Monster, because I saw a YouTube podcast yesterday, which was exactly the same thing.
Yes, you're right. You do get to the stage of not recognising yourself.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. I
apologise profusely for Mark.
What do you mean? No, I think it's all good stuff.
On one
it's quality contribution to the production.
Don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube. I don't know why you would. You listen to us on your normal platforms. You can follow us, join our Facebook page, contribute, send pictures of your kitties, do whatever you like. Send us ideas for episodes. Most of all, tune in next week when you can hear all about the hunt for Loch Ness Monster, the tourism effects, and a load of other nonsense about Scotland and its single malt whiskies. In the meantime, have yourselves a strange week. And if you do see a Loch Ness Monster, you've all got a camera phone in your pocket. Take a decent picture and sell it to the Daily Mail, because they will buy it.
Damn right.
So until next week, freeze frame.
What? I didn't say goodbye. What? Did you cut me off, or am I still on?
You're still on. I'm just freeze framing.
Oh, I see. I'm supposed to